why the record labels are suing Suno and Udio, and what it really means. Hi, Paul here from takrocmusic. Today I wanted to talk about the impending lawsuits with the music companies against Suno and Udio. And I did a little bit of research this morning before I started videoing, and I found something very interesting. We're going to explore that in a minute, but let's talk a little bit about what the lawsuit's all about and what Suno and Udio actually do for their learning platforms and how it relates to all of the released music. The music industry is at war with artificial intelligence, and this time it is targeting AI companies like Suno and Udio. In a world where algorithms are now writing songs, some of the biggest names in the music industry have declared legal war on Suno and Udio, a revolutionary AI tool redefining how music is made. But is this really about protecting artists or protecting monopolies? So the music industry companies are arguing that feeding copyrighted music into a neural network is no different than sampling without permission. But here's the catch. Suno doesn't sample, it doesn't remix, it analyzes. Suno and Udio is trained to understand style, form, harmony, and melody. And the result, the original compositions that sound familiar but are new. Suno AI learns by analyzing vast data sets of audio and text, specifically focusing on musical structure, lyrical patterns, and stylus elements. It uses a multi-stage generative pipeline that generates language modeling, which is prompt interpretation, music generation, diffusion or auto-aggressive modeling, and vocal synthesis. Essentially, Suno learns to mimic style of the music by understanding how different musical elements combine and evolve rather than simply copying an existing song. So Suno claims that it doesn't sample, it doesn't remix, it analyzes. So it's like a student absorbing influences. Suno is trained to understand style, form, harmony, and melody. And the result, the original compositions that sound familiar but are new. So Suno AI learns by analyzing vast data sets of audio and text, specifically focusing on musical structure, lyrical patterns, and stylistic elements. So I've just got this from the internet, so of course, if I found it on the internet, it has to be true. So it sounds like they use the patterns and how music is built in order to learn, and then it develops its own ideas from there. So it's transformative according to this. So my thoughts here are, is that any different than a human brain doing the same thing, except for the computer is a little more efficient and a little bit faster on doing that. So if you're a musician, you take influences from all different kinds of genres, depending on what you play. All the big bands, all the famous rock bands in the past and even now have some sort of influence. The Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, they all talk about the groups and the people that inspired their music. So is this any different than Suno and Udio computers using that data in order to learn how to play something? So here's the thing. Suno just uses all that information to learn. If it cut and copied and sampled and put music together by piece for music that was already released, then yes, obviously that would be a copyright and they would owe some kind of credit or money towards using those samples. But in this case, if Suno is correct and it's proven that that is what they actually do, then it should be considered fair use, according to this. But now, I did a little bit of research this morning, and something has just happened, and I wanted to share that with you now. Okay, so Donald Trump has signed 3 executive orders recently, each intended to accelerate AI development across the United States. These orders reportedly emphasize reducing legal constraints, particularly around copyright, to enable AI systems to train and innovate more freely. One notable theme is the assertion that AI training processes should be considered transformative, and therefore exempt from traditional copyright infringement concerns. Users interpret the move as Trump signaling that copyright laws should not slow down AI learning. So, despite the ambiguous tone of the executive orders, it's important to clarify that executive actions cannot override existing law. Copyright statutes are set by Congress, and enforcement mechanisms often hinge on judicial determinations, not executive direction or discretion. what the executive may influence is the enforcement of policy, for example, directing federal agencies to deprioritize enforcement on training-related activities. However, lawsuits brought in civil courts are still governed by statutory rules. Courts remain the ultimate arbitrators on whether specific uses can constitute infringement. So with President Trump's executive order saying that copyrighted information, music, and everything else is fair game for learning platforms for AI. So I feel as long as the AI companies can show that they are not copying and pasting, then they may have a chance to win. I'm not sure. I'm very interested about all of this. So I'm very interested to see how this all plays out. Tell me what you think. If Suno wins, how do you see the music industry changing? And if they lose, what do you think is going to happen? So leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.